19 weeks of points racing has led us to this moment and this night here at the World Center of Racing. We are at Daytona International Speedway, the same place the championship started all the way back in the spring, and we are here with 42 drivers for 50 laps under the lights here at Daytona for the 1UP Superstar Series regular season finale. And we have 12 drivers going for the final 8 spots in the playoffs, and everything is expected to be put on the line for this final race because we have some playoff spots to settle, as well as the regular season points championship. And alongside me in the booth to bring you all the action for tonight's race is Jacob Craigout back with us once again. This is the big one. This is what all these teams have been preparing for ever since we've gotten to the home stretch of the regular season. Daytona is unpredictable, and it's who's going to manage the draft the best that's going to come out on top today, I feel.
Yeah, certainly. And we could talk about qualifying and say, oh, you started out back, you're not really going to have a good chance to win this race. No, you can win this race from last place. Didn't we see it in the Daytona 500 where Emma Kruger did, or something like that? I don't remember. It's been such a long, chaotic, very interesting season so far for 1UP. Glad to have been alongside you to help bring you coverage for a majority of it so far. But yeah, you're right. It all comes down to this. We already have 7 drivers locked in for these 15 spots, but man, it's very tight here right at the end of that top 15.
And we're going to give you a quick look at this top 20 breakdown. We've got 12 drivers still in contention for 8 remaining spots, and that cut line, it remains as tight as ever, with Zayden Davidson just 2 points above the cut line on Zachary DeLello. DeLello's got a good chance at scoring some bonus points today. He starts 5th on the grid. Davidson's got a little work to do, starting a little in the midfield in 20th. But don't count out the other guys around that cut line. Emma Kruger, who, like you said, won that Daytona 500 in the spring. Henry Thomas, he's desperate for a win to try and snap his long winless streak. Julio Cesar, J.D. Martin, Ryan Griffin, who missed the Daytona 500 in the spring. This is his first Superstar race at Daytona of the season, and you can't even count Stephen Gale out 19 points back. He won at Talladega earlier this year. There's no one you can count out to get into the top 15, and likewise, you can't trust as big a points gap as some of these guys have to fall out of the top 15 as well.
I mean, yeah, they are kind of sitting pretty right now, having as big of a gap as they do back to that cutoff line. But a very quick wreck, and you're out of this thing and possibly out of a chance to fight for a championship 10 races down the line. I mean, Patrick Smith, he will start 36th today and whatnot. Yeah, he has 32 points, but if we have an early wreck and he gets involved, he is not sitting very in a good spot right now in terms of being able to avoid any big trouble early on here. But if he's able to stay out of trouble, he can work his way up through the field, get up to the front, and won't necessarily have to worry about that. But it's going to be a very long, hard-fought battle for this entire 50 laps for all 12 of these drivers, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
And not only those guys, but we've got a whole host of other drivers looking to stake their claim in victory lane to salvage what they can out of a season that may not have been kind to them up to this point. As we can now bring you the starting lineup for tonight's 50 laps of action. Believe it or not, this is Jeffrey Finguy's first pole position of 2025 for the defending series champion. He's got Duke Ansack alongside him. That's a key name you can circle for a guy who's this season has not been kind to. He's hoping for a big day here at Daytona. Miles Mashburn starts 3rd, the regular season champ. In the making, rather. He hasn't locked it up quite yet, but he's got to figure out a way to stay ahead of Lane Sanders, who starts just a couple rows behind him in 7th spot. Those two are going to be going for it, I'm sure. Finguy's going to be going for it, only 15 points out. And honestly, all things considered, a really good qualifying as well for the Crossroads Racing teams. Stanley Andrews starting in 9th spot, Stephen Hunter in 11th, And James Ellison, the team owner, starting down in 21st after missing the field at Darlington. But with that being said, there's a bunch of other stories we've neglected to mention, and that's just what happens at the regular season finale. We get so much to talk about, it's hard to cover everything.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you got Echo Evans Ross. She's going to be rolling off here from, it looks like, the 31st position. She's going to be looking for a little bit of redemption after getting injured in the Daytona 500 today. You got Roberto Crown Jr. He's rolling off shotgun to the rest of the field, P42. He's going to be looking for at least try and make something of the season and say, hey, yeah, hi, I'm here too. Because he really has not had a great of a season. But, of course, speaking of not great seasons, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Bobo Jones. His first top 10 came at Stephen Gill's first win this season at Talladega. And so far, he only has the 2 top 10s, if I recall correctly. He got one a few weeks ago. He definitely wants to also try and at least get something out of the season, because he's basically been last of all full-time drivers effectively most of the season, if not the entire season. But... And like I said earlier, Patrick Smith, P36, in great position in points right now. But like I said, has to avoid early troubles. Like, it's definitely going to be certainly interesting to see what all these drivers can do today. I mean, you said it, 50 laps. It's going to be exciting. Can't wait.
Yep, and with that being said, we've got 42 drivers ready to stake their claim at the World Center of Racing. We're ready to bring you that action now. It's the 1UP Superstar Series regular season finale at the Daytona International Speedway, and the green flag getting set to get this great race underway. So stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss a second of any of the action set to unfold over the next 50 laps. This race decides it all. It's Daytona, under the lights. It's Finguy and Anzac on the front row, leading us to the green flag, which is now out in the air, and the roar of 42 engines fills the air. We're underway at Daytona, and it's Duke Anzac who gets to the line first, that outside line, getting a good jump on the start, but I would expect Finguy and Mashburn to pull back ahead again once they make the jump towards turn 1.
Yeah, you really want to be on an outside lane here on the straightaways, but when you get to that turns, that inside lane is keen. We already see 3 wide a little bit further back here, as it looks like that's Dylan Young to the inside of the 31 and the 66.
Yeah, not what they wanted this early on in the race. We expected 3 wide, but maybe not that early. But meanwhile, Miles Mashburn's on a mission. He wants to lead this first lap of this race, get that bonus point, prevent Lane Sanders from getting an advantage over him. And he's out in front now through 3 and 4 to complete the first lap. It should be Miles Mashburn to complete the first lap in the lead, and that is a all-important bonus point for the regular season championship.
Yeah, but importantly, here's DeLello now looking to the inside of that 72 with a push from Lane Sanders in that 87 car. And right behind them, Stanley Andrews in the 1 as well, in line with Joshua Michaels behind them. They're going to go ahead and push past the 72 here as they come around turns 1 and 2 to complete the second lap.
Well, this is easy come, easy go for Miles Mashburn, who loses the lead race just as quickly as he got it. But now DeLello pulls up to cover the 72. That's good for the straightaway, but once we get to turn 3 and 4, Lane Sanders powers his way to the inside. That is not what Miles Mashburn wanted to see in that 72, because now Sanders is more than likely going to lead lap 2 of this race and even out the scorecard between himself and the Zaxby's Chevrolet. Sanders through to tri-oval, leads lap 2, and erases the advantage Mashburn had.
And more importantly, if Sanders can stay out front here, that's going to basically increase the points gap between him and Mashburn if he's able to take the points lead with as many spots as Mashburn might lose here if Mashburn continues to be kicked up onto that high side lane. However, if Lane finds himself stuck there, he's going to start falling back as well. That's not going to be as much of an issue for Mashburn, although Sanders with a huge lead, relatively speaking, he's clear of Andrews by a good 3-4 car lengths. So he's going to be able to hold on to the lead and be the first driver to lead consecutive laps tonight.
Yeah, and that's definitely not what Mashburn was hoping for. And like you said, you don't want to get too big a lead here at Daytona because the pack will swallow you up pretty quickly. But I think Sanders has the measure over it. He's got the pace to match the likes of Andrews and Michaels behind him. And this is honestly a run, even though Joshua Michaels now pulls down to his inside. This is a run Stanley Andrews badly needed. He's missed a bunch of races this season, including last week at Darlington. He has a top 10 this season, I believe that came at Vermont, but he's had a rough go of things this season, and he would love to get another top 10 here on the biggest stage at Daytona. But look who's coming down the inside. It's Stephen Gale. He's the last guy on points eligible to make the championship chase, and he's being pushed by Zayden Davidson, who would love to get a lap lead and establish himself on the cut line.
Yeah, but of course, just winning a race doesn't automatically lock you in. Stephen Gale still is going to have to try and maximize as many points as possible, and even then it might not still be enough if those ahead of him can still, do just enough to keep him down. But look who he is pushing right now. That's 29 of Dylan Young. Of course, we've talked about it all season. This is his retirement tour of the season. He's going to try and get that last win at Daytona, his last opportunity to do so. He's currently in a good spot right now. He's sitting in third, just ahead of that 52, with Joshua Michaels just ahead of him.
And I noticed further back in the pack, Mashburn got put 3 wide middle, and that sent Devin Fair up to the very top of the racetrack. You don't want to be 3 wide top, because that's just a big invitation to get drop kicked to the back of the field. We see a couple guys trying to get that third lane going, but it is very much easier said than done here at this place. But so far, Lane Sanders has had a pretty decent command over this entire race. He's led ever since he got the lead on lap 2, and if he can keep the most laps led bonus point, that is bad news for everyone else trying to catch him in the regular season points lead, because Mashburn's now drifted all the way outside the top 10.
Yeah, certainly, and it's also bad news for anybody trying to race their way into one of the playoff spots as well, because that's one less point that's available to them to try and help them gain that position. So we see now Stephen Gale work his way up to P2 past Dylan Young. He's got Davidson right back behind him. Stanley Andrews able to get back to that inside line. Now he looks to the inside of the 4.
And we've consistently had a Crossroads Racing presence in the top 10 this race, in the form of Stanley Andrews, as Gale now tries to sneak to the inside of Sanders for the lead. But I noticed James Ellison in that 3 car, he snuck his way into the top 10 as well. He has a top 10 this season. That came all the way back at Richmond. But I'm sure he'd love to get another one here at Daytona, because he is now last of the full-timers in the championship, and he would love to rectify that here today, as Stephen Gale, with a push from Andrews, is going to try and get the lead right here.
Yeah, and they got Jeffrey Finneguy right behind them as well on that inside lane, and was almost dead even coming across the line. Gale led that lap, but they're going to be hard-pressed to pass that 87, not 78, even with him being stuck on that outside lane with a strong car as Sanders has.
And he's got a push from an equally strong car in Zayden Davidson and Dylan Young behind him. So these guys are just trying to establish themselves into a position at the front, because we haven't had as much of a shuffle in the running order as we normally get here at Daytona. We've had most of the same players at the front of the field for the majority of the day so far. Granted, we're only coming to complete lap 8, but we haven't had as much of a shuffle as we normally see, and that could really play a factor in as far as who wins this race. It could be one of the guys that's still in the top 10 now.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we just saw Lane Sanders lead that lap by 9,000 seconds, so if they keep on running side by side like this, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for anybody further back to move up, unless they start a third lane and kick everybody up here at the front 2 higher lanes for the corners. But it's going to be easier said than done. Sanders continues to run strong on that outside lane, really making that work, which is very uncharacteristic of what we usually see at these plate races.
Just goes to show you how strong of a car he has tonight. But going back to what you were saying, yeah, we've got a bit of a gridlock here at the front of the field, preventing a lot of these guys from gaining time and making up spots, because a lot of the guys we see up at the front, they pretty much started there or made their way up to the front early. So Sanders has been here since the drop of the flag. He's started 7th, and he's been up at the front ever since. But you notice Mashburn's just hanging out, just barely outside the top 10. He's got to be thinking, though, that with Sanders out here leading all these laps, he's got to do something to get back up to the front. Because even if Sanders leads the most laps, as long as he finishes within striking distance at that 87, he should be okay.
Well, speaking of striking distance, Lane actually clears Gale with a push from Davidson going into turn 3, and he's going to continue now try and lead both lanes here and try and just, work the draft, basically acting kind of like as a Pied Piper of sorts and basically controlling both lanes and make sure that he stays out front. Sanders takes a peek to the inside of Stephen Gale for a second, just decides to stay in line, though.
Yeah, I think that one car, he wants to lead this race. Stanley Andrews he's had a rough season, like we said a couple of times today and then over the course of this season. But runs like this demonstrate that he definitely has the ability and the speed to make it in this series. And he's been in the top 5 pretty much all night long. He's got his teammate a few rows back. Stephen Hunter's been kicked out of the top 10 for the time being. But still, Crossroads Racing has brought some good stuff, and I expect that to continue with their move to Mercedes next year.
Yeah, he has a skill, he has the equipment, just hasn't had the luck or the opportunity to utilize either of those. But tonight, he certainly is utilizing it to great effect. As you said, has been in the top 5 pretty much all race long so far. So we see now Teskar Jr. looking to the inside of the 59 of Fitzwater a little bit further back towards the tail end of the top 10. Going to put him 3 wide with Jeff Bolton on the outside lane. Emma Kruger tucked in right behind in a fellow Toyota.
Yeah, and what I think Sanders is going to be happy to see in his mirror is that Miles Mashburn is now on the very top of the track, 3 wide. And that is an invitation to get sent to the back in a hurry. But it looks like there's a hole for Mashburn to slide into the middle groove. And he might try and cut down to try and get into that bottom lane, but Henry Thomas shut the door on him and filled that hole before the 72 was able to get down there.
Yeah, great heads-up driving by Mashburn. Nothing's not just drive straight down and potentially cause a huge wreck and take himself out of the race and for the regular season championship as well. As we see now, Stephen Gale clear of Andrews and Davidson, who are now battling side by side for 3rd. So top 2 clear of the rest of the field. I think they're actually pulling away just a little bit. That's just how strong their cars have been. As there is a little bit of gaps now starting to form between 2nd place in the battle for 3rd.
And as we watch Mashburn in this middle lane getting pushed by Rasha Mahendra, we've neglected to really mention, as Stephen Gale tries to go for the lead once again, we've neglected to really mention how important this regular season championship really is. That is 15 bonus points to start the playoffs with. That's the equivalent of 3 race wins. And so far, only Devin Fair has achieved 3 race wins this season. So that is a very big deal. And if Mashburn can get it on top of his 2 race wins, that is 25 bonus points he will take to start the playoffs. And that could be all the difference.
Yeah, and that could be huge because it could be the difference between winning the championship and coming up short in either 2nd or 3rd. So you really want to try and maximize as much as possible to try and get that. Right now, Sanders is doing the best he possibly can by leading this race. But yeah, that is going to be huge if they aren't able to achieve that and somebody else is able to, like say Sanders is able to get the regular season championship.
But look at this. Now Mashburn's found his way to the bottom. Now he's pushing the 16 of Henry Thomas. So Mashburn's found a spot in the bottom lane to just ride around for now. We do have a pit stop to make in this race. I expect that to come around lap 35 or so. So these guys, they've got to think about that as well. And what decision do you make to make that time on pit road as short as you possibly can? Lane Sanders, he probably doesn't want to make any adjustments to that car. He's clean and fine out front. But what happens if he gets shuffled out? What happens if he gets sent to the middle of the pack and his car doesn't handle as well? Many questions like that we're going to have do our best to answer here at Daytona. But at this point in time, it continues to be the Lane Sanders show out in front of this field. We've got a lot of racing still to go, and at this point, we've just got to hold our breath and keep hanging in there because the action is expected to pick up in quite a dramatic way.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd ask me what I want on my pit stop, I'm going to try and do my best to try and get on the pit road as efficiently as possible without sliding the tires and just say, give me gas, give me any adjustments I possibly need, and I'm just going to go. Because really, Daytona doesn't really eat up tires all that much unless you're like really sliding around. I mean, I know tire wear has been a little bit more of a factor in more recent years, but realistically speaking, like, maybe right side's at worst for tires. As we now see Davidson take a look to the inside of Sanders for the lead here.
And yep, that's important.
That could be big.
That's important for Zayden. If he can lead this lap, he comes across the line. No, he doesn't quite get there. But if he can hang in there and get the lead from Sanders, lead the next lap, that could be really important for his race because he is battling that 08 of Zachary DeLello for the final spot on the cut line. And they entered this race only 2 points apart, so if Davidson can get... I think what Davidson wants to do, he wants to cross up in front of the 87 of Sanders, prevent him from controlling this race anymore. And that looks to be exactly what he's doing. Prevent Lane from doing anything to try and surge back up to the front and force him to push you.
Yeah, but in doing that, he allowed Stephen Gale to get to his inside going into turn 3. And Stephen Gale has, I would say, just as equally strong car as Sanders. So you really don't want him being in that position either. Oh, but look at this. Julio Cesar is going to put Teskar Jr. and Sanders 3 wide. That's going to really help out Davidson and Gale here because that's going to shove Lane in a position to fall far back potentially in this field.
And look who's right behind Caesar. It's the 72 again, Miles Mashburn. That is definitely not what Lane Sanders was hoping to see. He now gets shuffled to the top of the racetrack, and I expect him to fall a little ways because, look, there's a gap in between him and Jeffrey Finguy. That's who Lane needs to get to help him, is that 92. But look, even he's starting to fall back, getting passed by Michaels, by Henry Thomas. So, yeah, I think that's what... I don't know if Julio Cesar was meaning to put his teammate in that position, but that's what you got to do at Daytona, because Cesar knows that Sanders is locked in to the playoffs. He's not so certain about that, and he needs to prioritize that 00 and the 46 if he possibly can for the rest of this race to lock themselves in and give Spa the best opportunity.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I was about to mention Julio Cesar is only 7 points ahead of the cut line going into this race. So I don't think Cesar really cares about what Lane does at this point or where Lane is on track. He's only looking out for himself at this point. And while, yeah, Lane is like, dang it, I want the regular season championship. As long as Julio's doing what he can to make sure that he's in the playoffs as well, I don't think Lane's going to be too mad about that. Also, as I say that, Mashburn now 3 wide for second with Cesar and Davidson. He's going to try and go for second here and maybe even the lead if he can get to Stephen Gale's inside before a corner exit. Stephen Gale gives him the space. And it looks like the one of Andrews now back up here as well, pushing that 72. And you got William Brock in the 93. You actually got both Genesis cars in a line on that inside lane. With the 77 not too far behind.
Yeah, I was going to mention those Genesis cars down on the bottom. William Brock and Daniel Bouchard, they started 29th and 40th in this race, respectively. But they found each other in the pack, and they're making their way to the front now. I wouldn't count either of them out either, because you can never count anybody out, realistically, at Daytona. But these guys have had a bit of a rough season. Brock's actually had a really consistent year. Not really the results to show for it. I believe his only top 10 of the season came due to strategy at Dubai. But Daniel Bouchard, he's had a rough go of it in this 2025 season, and I'm sure he'd love nothing more than to go back to victory lane for the first time since Iowa in 2020.
Yeah, and as we saw there, Stanley Andrews had a brief look to the inside of the 72 going through 1 and 2, but slowed up, I think, coming out of that corner now. And 72 of Mashburn's clear the rest of the field here. Still 3 wide, though, briefly. But Stanley Andrews going the wrong way on the inside line. Not sure what's going on there. I mean, we got Michaels now clear of the 1.
And that's a teammate to Mashburn. That's going to help him a lot, is having a teammate in Michaels back there to work with.
And, of course, Michaels also plus 28 going in as well. So, in a good spot right now. both heading into this race and currently as they run in terms of making the playoffs. In fact, all three of these guys up here, aside from Mashburn, as well as the 1600 Thomas, all four of these guys really in a good spot here. Maybe not necessarily on where they are on track, but, you know, at least in running order.
And throw Dylan Young into that conversation as well. He was 27 points above the cut going in, and he's having a solid day in the 6th position right now. But Stephen Gale's been the man out in front of this race for the last little bit, and he's had Julio Cesar to work with this entire time. Michaels actually now gets underneath Mashburn to move himself up in the 3rd. I think that might have been, I don't know if that was by design or not, but that it isn't a bad idea. Give Michaels the extra point he needs to try and make the top 15, while keeping Mashburn in a solid enough position to win the regular season championship. Because right now, his main challengers, Finguy and Sanders, are in the mid-pack with nowhere to go.
Yeah, like I was about to say, Mashburn has nothing to worry about at the moment, other than maybe getting shuffled a few positions back right now.
And Ben
Sanders
McDonald,
and Finguy.
Yeah,
but Sanders is nowhere right now. Finguy is nowhere right now. I don't even think 72 can see them in his mirror with as full as it is with the rest of the field in between his competitors. So being able to get Michaels, that extra spot,
here we
even though
go.
it doesn't really look like it has worked out.
Got to move underneath for the lead. Mashburn underneath both Cesar and Stephen Gale. He wants to lead in some more laps. I understand the call. Go for the lead. Try and take the most laps led away from Lane Sanders if you can. But I think he just wants to win a race on an oval this season, because both of his wins this season have come on the road courses.
Yeah, but hey, it put him in this position to win the regular season championship despite that. So, but yeah, it would be nice to win on an oval, considering that is what makes up a majority of the season.
Yeah, he's forging out ahead of Julio Cesar. They remain side by side down the back straightaway. Will Stanley Andrews try and pull out in front of the 73, try and make a move? No, he stays loyal to the 72, trying to push him along. These two have actually worked well together in races past, Mashburn and Andrews, on the super speedways. So it doesn't really surprise me that much to see them working well together here today. But despite that, the might of the outside line sends Julio Cesar back to the race lead.
Yeah, no, looks like pretty much both the 00 and the 87, very strong super speedway package that they brought this week and whatnot. Stephen Gale as well. He's still kicking it on that outside lane, side by side with that 72 still. Even with Stanley Andrews tucked a little bit more into that tail end of the 72 than the 6 is to the 52, at least coming off the corner. You see the strength of that 52 on that outside lane going down the straightaway, able to pull away from Michaels and almost cleared the 72 heading into turn 3 there. Julio Cesar a couple car lengths now ahead, although Stanley Andrews taking a look to the inside of that 72, can't quite get there as Mashburn is placing his car pretty well to try and fend off kind of a two front battle here.
And it's amazing to see the strength of field we have here, to have all 42 of our racers still within 1.8 seconds of the lead, well past the halfway point. That is impressive to see. And looking a little further back, Bobo Jones in that 58, you mentioned he was having a rough season up to this point. He's got the fastest lap point currently, which could certainly help him in his battle to try and push as far up to the top 30 as he can. But that's also taking that point away from a lot of guys who could really use it in their fight for the playoffs.
Yeah, but you know what? At this point, do what you got to do to at least make some sort of impression, to at least salvage something out of the season. Screw everybody else. You're looking out for yourself at this point if you're not in the fight for make the playoffs.
And look at this. We've also got a string of Toyotas working their way through on that inside line. Sam Donato's there, Christian Vargas, Zachary DeLello, Cale Tescar Jr. is back there, and I think Devin Fair is going to now slot in behind the 18. So that's 5 Toyotas on the inside line working together to try and push their 6 with Liam Nolan back there as well. So we've got half a dozen Toyotas on that inside line trying to work together to get to the front, and it looks like Denoto's leading the charge. He's up into the top 5.
Yeah, 3 of them were Revolution Racing Toyotas as well. So great run for all of these guys here as they try to work their way up to the front and, try to remove the stranglehold that, really has been a Chevrolet and Dodge race all race long so far. But if you get all 6 Toyotas up here, man, that is going to be very, very much a fight that you're going to have to really bring your A game to fend off. And doesn't look like we see Henry Thomas now kind of come down in between Nolan and the other 5, but
there's Cody Goforth back there in the 64 for a 7th Toyota in that inside line, only split up by Henry Thomas.
So yeah, you got a Baker's half dozen there and Henry Thomas kind of in that line there. So that is going to be very hard to fight off here. Although Stephen Gale now taking the lead away from Julio Cesar. He's in the best position to do so right now. He can use Julio Cesar kind of as a pick here. Trying to fend off those Toyotas.
Yeah, but you were mentioning those Revolution Racing teammates down there. The one Revolution Racing car you don't see in that line is the one that really needs the help the most, Zayden Davidson. He's stuck up on that outside line right behind Ben McDonald. So Davidson going in the wrong direction, and that's not good news for his playoff hopes because DeLello is making a push towards the top 5.
Yeah, and Davidson really needs to get to the bottom, but there's really no opportunity for him to do so. The pack is all tightly bunched. As we see now, Denoto going for the lead, 3 wide with Julio Cesar and Stephen Gale, with a push from Vargas right behind.
Yeah, the Toyotas have come to play. Denoto now pushes his way through to the lead with help from Christian Vargas and DeLello. Tescar, Fair, and you got the interloper, Henry Thomas, in there, but you also have the likes of Liam Nolan, Cody Goforth, and the other spot.
4 wide.
Oh, that never works here. I think Stephen Gale, yeah, he's doing the right thing. He's backing out of that, trying to prevent a 4 wide situation. And, it looks like we've got some early takers on pit road. Looks like the 02 and the 20. Ryan Griffin and Keon Daly. They've placed their bets on an early pit stop here to try and get out ahead of their competition. But the problem is they only have their 2 cars in that pit lane, so they're going to have to work together as much as they possibly can here.
Honestly, I kind of like the boldness of them being the only 2 that coming down because they probably saw the 4 wide situation and thought, oh God, this is going to be trouble, and came down pit road to try and get that early stop out of the way in case there's a caution here.
Well, split the pack up,
It looks like they settled down. Yeah, it looks like they settled down for the moment, but things are heating up as we're getting ready for pit stops. They are 4 wide once again. Although I think people are going to be coming down pit road there. Yeah, you see them now dive down. Looks like with Fair, DeLello,
Thomas, JD Martin's coming in, Patrick Smith, a lot of good playoff contenders on their way to the pit lane. Henry Thomas is in as well. Now you see Griffin and Daly coming out of the pits. They're going to have to find each other pretty quickly because this pack is going to arrive on the scene at a very short amount of time and put them a lap down.
Yeah, but hey, I still say they played it smart by getting out of the pack as early as possible in case there was a wreck. But it might not work out in their favor at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see how this as the pit cycle continues on. Caesar now leading the 52 Gale. We'll have to see if they come down pit road this time or not.
Looks like Gale is, and he's bringing Denoto with him, Tescar, Andrews, Ben McDonald, Dylan Young, Lane Sanders critically coming down pit road this time. Emma Kruger coming in with a huge rate of speed. I think she made contact with the 92 of Finn guy. Sure enough, she did. Will that impact the 70 at all in this race? We'll find out once this cycle's out, but that could be critical for Emma Kruger's race and championship hopes.
Yeah, but look at all this. People are going down a lap, but here's the thing. The 02 and the 20, they are not a lap down just yet as everybody else is getting up to speed. There are people who have gone a lap down to the leaders of Caesar and Mashburn, and if they're trying to pit, or they got to pit here, like they're in a bad spot to do so.
Looks like Caesar's going to have the space to come down, but Mashburn can't. He's got to go another lap around.
Yeah, everybody else is able to at least come down pit road. Mashburn's going to be, I think, coming down pit road by himself this time by.
Oh, and look, he sees some big rear end damage on the back of the 92. of Finn Guy. That's gonna take him out of contention for the regular season championship. And look, Mashburn critically puts Lane Sanders a lap down. So if we do get a caution, that'll trap him there, and that might be what Mashburn's hoping for at this point.
Yeah, and I think I saw some damage to the back of the 83 of Duke and Zach as well, but I could have just been seeing things. But yeah, this is, and with the 25, Eric Monaco now getting to the inside of the 72, that's going to be huge because now Mashburn's going to have to basically hit the brakes in order to try and make pit road here. Oh, here comes the 6. Oh, that's
yeah, they're coming. He's coming too. So they come down pit road together, the Robbers Racing teammates, which is probably for the best to stick together. We've got a lot. Here's Caesar exiting the pits. Bouchard actually came out ahead of him in that pit cycle, but look at out of turn 2, Galen Vargas coming in at them with a huge head of steam.
Yeah, so I thought Michael's pit on the previous time by, so that was my mistake for not realizing, oh wait, Michael's is here too. But yeah, that was great pit stop for Vargas. He's actually going to maybe try and take the lead here, or at least or maybe even provisional P3, because I think Bouchard and Julio Cesar had better pit stops.
Well, we're about to find out. And coming out of the pits there, Mashburn leads the charge out. Michaels is a little ways behind him. So Mashburn actually, for Mashburn, this is a bit of a mission accomplished moment. He managed to complete his pit stop without any incident, and he's not gonna cycle out as the leader, but he's gonna cycle out close enough to the front where he doesn't have to worry about Lane Sanders and especially not Jeffrey Finguy at this point in the race.
Yeah, and with just over 10 laps to go, that is basically championship locked up, I would assume, unless Sanders can work his way up to
or a caution comes
the
out.
72 here, or a caution comes out, yeah, which would definitely help Sanders out in a big way. But now with the pack spread out, the chances of the caution coming out aren't as likely as it was with that big pack.
Yeah, and you see Finguy mired deep in the field, and Emma Kruger out of the race from that crash damage on the pit lane. That's going to wipe her out of the championship hunt altogether. She needed to race her way in, entered this race 10 points out. Now, Emma Kruger, our first retirement of the race from a win in the 500 in the spring to last place here in the summer. That is going to wipe her out of the championship altogether and eliminate Game Breaker Racing from a shot at the title.
Yeah, and it was, in fact, Finguy as well that the damage was on, not Duke and Zach. I apologize for that mistake. But yeah, that is huge for Emma Kruger. She will not be racing for a championship this year. Tough break for that 70 team. That is the worst possible way that you can find out you're not racing for a championship.
And critically, I saw near the back of the field, J.D. Martin racing back there. He only entered this race 8 points to the good, and he is mired deep in this pack. I don't know. He's going to need to make a huge charge in the final 12 laps of this race to have anywhere close to a shot at this. But it's this group of 4 leading the field right now. It is Bouchard, Caesar, Galen Vargas, but I have a feeling this second pack is going to catch them in a big hurry. They're running about a second a lap faster. It's going to be close, but that group of cars is going to do whatever they can. The pack that's forming up behind them, they're just going to have to push like crazy because across the line they go now. They gained about 0.3 of a second on the previous lap. I think that might be enough, but they really need to start pushing it a little bit further to try and get to that group of 4 out front.
Well, everybody, say it with me now. Catching is one thing, passing's another. You got to catch them, yes, but you also got to get around them, and that's 2 different things. But I don't know, with as head of a steam as these guys are going to have by the time they catch these guys, it might be easier said than done. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see here and see just how much is taken out of that lead and whatnot, because it's only 4 cars compared to, I think, 13 cars in the secondary pack here.
Well, they gained a second on that lap alone, so they're definitely on the way. And look who's leading that second pack. It's the 3rd Spa car that we haven't seen a lot of in this race, Chase Christ in the 46. Remember how close he came to a win at Talladega before getting shuffled out on the final lap. He definitely remembers that, and wouldn't he love to get Super Speedway redemption and lock himself a playoff spot at the same time?
Well, he's in a better spot than his teammate Julio Cesar was in terms of logging themselves in, plus 26 going into this race, and with him only being or actually being exactly one spot behind Caesar, and now kind of tucked in line behind Vargas, almost making it 3 wide on the 54 and the 00. Like, he's in a good spot to log himself in the spot here. Of course, a win would, make it, a more surefire thing, granted, but it's definitely going to be a close fight here, and he's in a good spot to do so. As William Brock now joins the battle, you got the 12 now in here,
and not only that,
of course, Ben.
Not only that, that group that caught the group of 4 out front, they set the fastest laps of the race in doing so, with a huge run of momentum onto the group of 4 out in front. Now it's become 9 cars, 10 cars, 15 cars. There's no shortage of contenders for the win here at Daytona as we're into the final 10 laps now.
Yeah, but critically, look who's at the tail end of this now lead pack here. That's Aiden Davidson. He's now in a spot to try and regain some momentum to try and regain any hope of playoffs.
And look, and only a few spots ahead of him, Ryan Griffin in the 0-2. He's got to get moving if he's going to make the playoffs, because he entered this race 17 points out, so he needs to make a move or multiple moves in the final 8 laps if he's going to have a shot at this.
Yeah, especially if he can maybe get ahead of Zachary DeLello by several spots, or Zayn Davidson. JD Martin is nowhere to be seen at the moment, and with Julio Cesar and Henry Thomas being up here near the front of the field, yeah, both the 4 and the 0-2 need to get a move on here, and the 08 as well, if any of those guys want to have a shot at maneuvering the others around them to get into the playoffs here, because holy heck, is it getting down to crunch time? It's 7 laps to go, 6 3/4 here as they come off of turn 2.
And look who's found his way to the front once again. It's Chase Christ in the 46, trying to make it all 3 Spa cars that have led this race for a good chunk of it. But for Chase Christ, he's the new guy at Sanders Performance Autosport. We weren't quite sure how he would perform in his first season in top-level equipment. Well, he won, didn't he, his first race of his career. I believe that was at Charlotte. And now he's only about 6 laps away from another win, this time at Daytona.
And what a place to get a win at, whether it's your first career win or your 101st career win. Like, to be able to win at Daytona is to etch your name into the history books of racing ever. And if he can hang on for these last 5.5 laps to get that, man, that would be momentous. And the momentum as well going into the playoffs as well of winning.
Yeah, and he'd be the first Spa driver to get to multiple wins this season, so that's another notch in his cap if he can hang on to this. But Sam Donotto is not letting him get too far out in front. He's sticking to the back of the 46. We now have 5 laps to go. McDonald's found his way to 3rd, and in 4th place, Miles Mashburn just looking to hang on and sell up the regular season title.
Yeah, Donotto really keeping Chase Christ honest, but here comes the 12 of McDonald now. He's already locked into the playoffs. He doesn't really need to worry about that, but man, he would love to win the regular season championship himself. He actually entered this race in contention, I believe. Yeah, he did. 23 points back behind Mashburn, although with Mashburn now looking to his inside, that's not looking very likely.
No, but at this point, McDonald's just looking to win the race and get 5 more bonus points under his belt. But Christian Vargas, he's not yet won this season. He'd love to win here at Daytona for the regular season finale. 4 laps to go. Chase Christ is just hanging on for dear life. We know how close he came at Talladega, and I'm sure he knows too, that not to get that big a lead ahead of the pack. As Henry Thomas tries to make a surge towards the front, he has not won in 5 years.
Yeah, and he really needs to he really wants to get a win, not just to, break that winless streak, but also to lock himself into the playoffs effectively, because he only entered this race +6 above the cut line. Like, he really needs it. As we see now, the 72 Mashburn looks to the inside, but now here comes Donotto. He puts the block on the 72. He's going to try to make a run on the 46 now with that block here, and it's going to allow Henry Thomas to close in as well. Mashburn tries to fall in line between the 54 and the 46. Ooh, tries to come back down in front of the 16. Can't quite do it for the second time this race. Henry Thomas denies Mashburn a spot on the inside lane. He's now going to try and make a move for second with a push from his teammate behind.
Correction, it makes 6 years since Henry Thomas has been to victory lane. You got to go all the way back to 2020, the last time we saw this driver in victory lane. That was at Pikes Peak in the infancy of this series. But now, Henry Thomas in a very good position with his teammate Ben McDonald pushing him along in the draft, but they've got to catch that 46 first. And with Sam Donotto and Miles Mashburn up high, that is very much easier said than done as we come now to 2 laps to go.
But Chase Chris has a huge lead. It's easily 4 or 5 car lengths, 2 to go at the line. Can Aventum Motorsports drivers catch the 46? Will Sam Donotto be fighting these last 2 laps tooth and nail every inch of the way? The answers are yes, at least to the last question. But man, what it would be for Henry Thomas to win here in effectively in a last-ditch effort to try and make the playoffs here in a time when he absolutely needs every point possible. And Chase Chris doing the same as well, just not in as a rough spot as Henry Thomas, although Donotto crucially cleared the 16, able to get in front, now running down the 46, right in the slipstream as we come off turn 4, coming to the white flag.
And we've got some new contenders in the top 10 we haven't seen yet there. Logan Williams, Liam Nolan, Keon Daly up there. But the white flag is out. We're on to the final lap. Chase Chris just has 2.5 more miles to go to get this win. But he's got Sam Donotto right behind him. We know how that's gone in the past.
Yeah, Donotto just needs to set him up here, let him run the high line down the back straightaway, get low into turn 3, and just try and out-drag him down the front trioval here. Although here we see now the 73 looking to the inside, making a 3 wide for third.
Yeah, I don't think
that's going to help out 77 and 46.
Yeah,
no one's catching them. It's a battle for third behind, but this is the fight for the win. 76 and the 40s, or 77 and 46. Sorry.
Out of turn 4, final time. Donotto has no help, so it's going to be Chase Chris getting career win number 2, putting his Super Speedway demons to rest at Daytona for his second win of 2025, the second of his one-up career. And that will vault him into the series playoffs for the first time as well. Sam Donotto second, Henry Thomas third. That bumps the 16 into the playoffs as well. Daniel Bouchard gets his best results of the season in 4th. And by finishing 5th today, Miles Mashburn just does enough, and he wins the regular season championship.
Man, that was an exciting end of that race. But yeah, big congratulations both Chase Chris and Miles Mashburn.
Yeah, but don't celebrate just yet. We still got a few more playoff spots to sort out. Now, looking at the points, Julio Cesar finishing 10th. He's done enough to make it in. Davidson and DeLello right at the back of that train. They end this race 4 points apart, but that doesn't really matter to them because they both leapfrog J.D. Martin, and the Robbers Racing driver will be the one who falls out of the top 15 at the last minute.
Yeah, I was about to say, J.D. Martin being out of it, just that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for J.D. Martin and Robbers Racing. There is, man,
34th at the end of the day, and that's what did it. Too little to gain, and Lane Sanders led the most laps of this race. He finishes down in 36. That's not indicative of where he was pace wise. But critically, Ryan Griffin did not get enough points to make it in, and Stephen Gale, who led a good chunk of this race, comes up 6 points short of his bid. He comes up 6 points right behind DeLello.
Oh, and he finished 6th too. So,
well, 9th place.
Or no, 9th. Sorry, 9th. I think that was the fastest lap that we were looking at when I saw him.
If he had finished 3rd, that would have been enough. But he finishes 9th, and he is out. But that is an epic regular season finale of all time. And we've got our 15 playoff drivers now, and they are going to get set to do battle in the playoff opener, which is coming up in just a short while as well. So be sure to join us for that when we head out to Chicagoland Speedway next week for the playoff opener in Joliet, Illinois. That is going to be a lot of fun out there. But from Jacob Crago and from myself as well, thanks for joining us from an epic regular season finale at Daytona. Congratulations to Chase Christ on his second career win, and to all 15 of our playoff drivers getting set to do battle over the next 10 races.